Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Stokes. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about type 3 diabetes, and it's an interesting disease, and it's not even recognized by the World Health Organization, right? This is a term that was first coined by Suzanne Delamonte. I think it was back in 2005. Her and her colleagues were doing research on Alzheimer's, and they found this connection to insulin sensitivity in the brain and the formation of amyloid plaque, which is a foundational side effect, if you will, of the disease process. So, I want you to think about type 3 diabetes as essentially type 2 diabetes, but for the central nervous system. This is really important, right? Because you don't treat it the same. So, when I have patients that have type 2 diabetes or even type 1 diabetes, I use herbs like Genema, for sure, right? And I support the pancreas with protomorphogens, but with type 3 diabetes, we need a different approach. It is not the same. This is if you want to think of it as a diabetes, it is like a diabetic process that's happening again in the brain, in the central nervous system. So we have to approach it quite differently. Now, what's important to understand is that the brain has all of these insulin receptors, a lot of insulin receptors, because glucose is used as a primary fuel source in the brain, so it's pretty important. In this disease process, what happens is those insulin receptors downregulate. They become less sensitive. And so this creates all sorts of dysfunction. And remember, we're talking about brain dysfunction. And so, yeah, we get things that you'd normally associate with the brain, right? Memory problems, coordination problems, all these things. But remember that the brain and the central nervous system, it basically controls your entire body. So this is a true systemic disease. We can see problems from type 3 diabetes anywhere in the body. I mean, someone could come in and have tingling in their little toe, and it could be because of the dysfunction of the brain's inability to regulate insulin. It's really interesting. And the brain has these enzymes called insulin-degrading enzymes, right? IDEs. And what happens is that their job is to take care of basically two things. They want to control insulin in the brain, but they also want to control formation of amyloid plaque. When the receptors in the brain downregulate because of type 3 diabetes, these ICEs, they have to do a lot more work, right? They're like the janitors of the brain. All of a sudden, they got to do a lot more work because the insulin receptors are not doing their job. So they're going around basically mopping up insulin. They don't have as much time to dedicate to taking care of the formation of the amyloid plaque. And then we get an overrunning of amyloid plaque in the brain. That's essentially what happens. It's pretty interesting, but it's also pretty devastating to the system. So, what do we do about this? I've seen it clinically. I've actually had some good success treating it and preventing it in my clinic. There are a couple of things that we need to look at. First and foremost, as I mentioned, this is not going to be the same as treating diabetes, type 2 diabetes or type 1. It's different, right? This is brain-based, central nervous system based. So it's got to be a bit of a different strategy. But first and foremost, I get all my patients to begin doing intermittent fasting, and I start them with 16-8, so 16 hours of fast and an 8-hour eating window. And once they become comfortable with that, I really want to bump them up to a 18-6 window. So 18 hours of fasting, 16 hours of eating. Basically, they'll eat between like noon and 6 o'clock each day. And of course, the first thing that all my patients tell me is they say, yeah, I can do that. But what do I eat? What kind of food do I eat? Do I do keto? Do I do carnivore? Do I do vegan? And I tell them at this stage, don't worry about it. And that doesn't hit them very good usually because they all want to get into the details. And I tell them like, hey, first, get into that window. Yeah, that's no problem, they say, but it's a big problem. So again, start with the 16-8 window. Only eat food for 8 hours a day. That means nothing except water outside of those time frames. Water, coffee, or tea, right? No calories in that time frame. And of course, while you're working on eating in that window, focus on eating good food. So eat normal food, but eat the most highest quality food that you can afford. In the beginning, that's fine. Yeah, bags of potato chips, probably not a good idea, right? So use common sense. But as far as the type of food at this stage, don't really worry about it. Eat what you want to eat and eat in that window. That's the most important thing. So many times patients come to me and I review their cases and I find that they've, gone vegan, or they're eating now all this, grass-fed, grass-finished meat. They're all happy about their dietary changes, but they're still not eating in that window. And I tell them, I say, you're still eating like at 8:30 at night. Yeah, but I'm having, a high protein or a high fat snack. You've got to eat in this window. So again, 18:6 is ideal, but you can start with 16:8. That's number one. Number two is we want to introduce a supplement into the system to support. The best supplement for type 3 diabetes, actually for any neurodegenerative condition, is going to be NeuroRegenX. This is the premier product from Standard Process. There's no product like it ever in the world. Nothing like this in the world. It's that good. Why is it so good, you say? It's what's in there and the delivery system. Because remember, we're dealing with the brain, and most supplements don't cross the blood-brain barrier. That's a problem. What Standard Process has done is they've taken some of the best herbs we know to prevent and to help with neurodegeneration, and they've made a pathway and patented it using fenugreek. And so fenugreek shuttles the supplements across the blood-brain barrier, and it gets uptaken by the central nervous system. That's what's unique about this. As far as what's in this, we have Go-To Cola, a 10-to-1 extract. Go-To Cola is going to promote angiogenesis in the body. It's going to actually influence regeneration of tissue and healing. It's going to influence the little blood vessels to grow branches into tissue, again, to promote regeneration. Very important, because we're dealing with some tissues in the brain that are injured, that are very hard to heal. Go-To Cola, essential, and it's in this product at an excellent ratio of 10-to-1. Next, we have turmeric, and this is a 55-to-1 extract. Super strong turmeric supplement. Why turmeric? It is the anti-inflammatory, right? It does so many things. You can Google it, but in this case, what we're most interested in is it is a super anti-inflammatory. It is going to mop up free radical damage in the brain, right? That's going to be created from the insulin. This is ideal. Also, over time, turmeric works with those receptors. So we talked about how there's a desensitization of insulin receptors in the brain, right? And those, what do we call them? Those insulin degrading enzymes have to do all this extra work. Turmeric is going to regenerate basically those receptors. It's going to help clean off the receptors. If you think of like a battery terminal that's rusted, the turmeric is going to like sand off those terminals so we get a good connection. So over time of taking this, those receptors are going to basically come back to life and be more useful and operate more optimally, which is really important, right? Because we're dealing with insulin resistance based on those receptors not working right. Next, we have one of my favorites, of course, Boswellia. And this is in a 23-to-1 extract. All we have to say about Boswellia, simply put, it is the anti-inflammatory. End of story. We have to have that, again, to take care of all those free radicals that are being created. All of those waste products that we can't get out of the brain, right? What we want to do with Boswellia is we want to turn those waste products, those toxins, into something that is more easy to get rid of. Boswellia will do that, and then we can shuttle it out of the system. Clean it through the liver, kidneys, etc. And finally, it has a very funny name, herb, and I always say it wrong. It's called Bupalrum. Bupalrum root. And this is at a 6-1 extract. Now, I have used Bupalrum for many years, and I use it in cases of ADD. I use it in cases of dementia and these types of things. Bupalrum is going to be the bump for the brain. It's going to increase the activity of the brain. It's going to give you a real ability to increase cognition, better memory. So anybody that's dealing with memory problems, students who want to improve memory for school and for exams, Bhupal Room is like supercharging your brain. We have it in here as well, and that ties everything together and allows the system to be able to operate at that higher level of efficiency that we're going to get from the other herbs. Neuroregenics is the number one item to take. And again, as I mentioned, you've got these 4 different herbs in the one capsule in a concentrated form. You take 2 of these 3 times a day with food, and I really would like you to do that for at least 10 days. Then switch out to 1 3 times a day with food. If you are already if you're already in trouble, right? If you're already in a pretty solid state of decline or degeneration, then I want you to take 6 of these a day for 2 cycles, for 2 bottles. So you're going to do 6 a day for 20 days before switching out and going to the 3 a day dose. This is very expensive. This is the most expensive product that Standard Process makes. But I want you to remember that there are 4 products in one. So if you had to buy each of these 4 products, it would be more expensive than buying a bottle of this. Yes, it's expensive. This is serious medicinal value for somebody that absolutely needs it, right? That's why we want to use this. It produces results. We have lots of research on this product. I have seen incredible results with this. So again, it does cost a lot of money, but it is, I believe, worth it, especially if you're somebody that's facing some kind of neurodegenerative condition. Those can be devastating. Neuroregenics, I believe, is your answer, and you will see a change after the first 10 days if you're taking 6 of these a day. What a lot of people will do is they'll buy a bottle of this. There's 60 in a bottle. They'll take like 1 a day or 2 a day, and after a month, I talk to them and I say, "How you doing?" And they go, "Yeah, I think it's working, but I'm not too sure. I don't know if I'm going to continue it. It's so expensive." I say, "You're taking 1 or 2 a day, so you have to. If you're going to try this, at least give it its due." And take 6 a day for at least the first 10 days. The other thing that I recommend, which is not expensive, is a protomorphogen. And so when we're treating type 2 diabetes, we take protomorphogens. It provides a blueprint of regeneration so the body can go and reference that and understand how to heal the pancreas. And when they're growing back pancreatic cells and repairing those cells, they use the protomorphogen as a blueprint. So it's important, and they're not expensive. And so with the type 2 diabetes, we use a product called pancreatrophin. We don't want to do that with this because this is type 3 diabetes. It's the brain. So with this, we use neurotrophin. And neurotrophin is the protomorphogen for the brain, and it will just give a nice nutritional supplement to allow the system a blueprint of repair and regeneration so it can reference that to make sure that when it's repairing in the right way. Because sometimes there is genetic damage from this, and sometimes when the system goes to access the blueprint to repair, that blueprint is either not correct because it's damaged, because the DNA is damaged, or the signal from the blueprint to the cell gets muffled. And so the protomorphogen is a nice way to reinforce that, make sure that we get those signals properly, make sure we get the healing we want to get. I've made other videos on protomorphogens that you can read if you'd like. And I would generally have people take 3 of those a day on an empty stomach, but it varies. And again, it will depend upon, it's really going to depend upon how severe you are. You can reach out to me if you want to get some more details on this. I'll put a link in the description of this video if you want to try these products. And again, on my website, drstevenstokes.com, all sorts of information. Remember, consultations with me are at no charge. My phone number is 239-645-2405. That is my cell phone. I'm in Eastern Standard Time. Please don't call me at 12 o'clock at night like some of you have done, because I'm sleeping, right? I need lots of sleep. But you can call me or text me during the day. Probably best to text first, see if I'm busy. Let me know who you are, and then I'll call you back. Or you can email me, drstevenstokes@yahoo.com. Thank you for watching. Give a thumbs up, and I'll see you again in a few days. Bye-bye.